40 unforced errors on the forehand wing, out of 67 total, in a single Grand Slam warm-up final. That number is not a blip, that is a structural alarm going off at full volume. And if you are not disturbed by it as a Coco Gauff fan heading into Roland Garros, I genuinely don't know what match you were watching. I've been pulling the tape from Rome, and here is what I keep coming back to. It isn't just the volume of errors, it's the pattern of them. Watch the fifth game of the second set. Gauff is up in the rally. She has Svitolina pinned deep, and instead of loading up and driving through the ball the way we know she can, she half swings. She leans back, the contact point drops behind her hip, and the racket head drags across the ball instead of through it. The result is a cross-court forehand that clips the tape and dies. That right there is not a bad shot. That is a technical habit under pressure that has become alarmingly consistent. Now here's the bit that actually bothers me more than the shot itself. Tracy Austin, a former world number one, someone who has watched more forehands over a baseline than most of us have had hot dinners, put it simply and correctly when she said she wishes she could convince Gauff to let loose more on that wing. And Austin is absolutely right. When Coco steps in, when she trusts the timing and accelerates the racket head, the forehand is a weapon. We saw flashes of it in Rome, brief, brilliant flashes. In one stretch mid-first set, Gauff hit 3 consecutive inside-out forehands with genuine topspin RPM that had Svitolina scrambling into the corner. She went up 4-2 on the back of that. Then the leaning started, then the passive swing, then the tape. Before you say this is just a clay court anomaly, go back and look at the pattern across her entire 2025 clay swing. Every match she won at the Foro Italico, she came from a set down. Every single one except the Sciustia semifinal. She won that one in straights, 6-3, 6-4, but even that required grinding through prolonged deuce games with breakpoints stacking against her. This is not grit, and I want to be careful here because grit is real and it matters. But there is a point where every match being a survival exercise stops being a badge of honor and starts being a warning sign. Brett Haber said it plainly during the broadcast. Every match is a labor for her. Nothing seems to come easy. I agree with that completely, and I think it is the most honest commentary I've heard about Gauff all spring. I was looking at the tape and noticed something specific about her serve in the Rome final that compounds the forehand issue dangerously. When Gauff's first serve percentage dropped, and it did drop at the worst possible moments, on break points, on match points, she was forced into second serve exchanges where Svitolina's defensive genius simply wore her down. Svitolina does not give you free points from the baseline. Her court coverage is elite, her retrieval angle is almost geometrically perfect, and the way she redirects pace off a mediocre second ball is enough to completely destabilize a player whose forehand is already tentative. Gauff and Svitolina in those conditions was essentially a test of who flinched first on the ground strokes, and Gauff flinched 40 times on the forehand alone. Here is the piece that I think gets buried under the polite television commentary. Coco Gauff has now lost 2 consecutive Italian Open finals. Last year, she dropped the championship match to Jasmine Paolini on this exact same red clay. 12 months later, same stage, same city, different opponent, same structural problems on the serve and forehand. That is not bad luck. That is a pattern that demands an honest reckoning. And the fact that Gauff herself came out after the match and said she was too passive tells me she knows it. She is not delusional about what happened. But knowing and fixing are two very different things. And Roland Garros is not a place where you figure out your forehand mechanics on the job. If you are a purist, you are going to hate this next part, because what I'm about to say cuts against the narrative that Gauff is simply unlucky or under-resourced in big moments. I think the forehand issue is at least partially psychological. Here is why. The technical flaw that Austin identified, the leaning back, the late contact point, the incomplete follow-through, is not the kind of thing you forget how to do correctly mid-match. Gauff knows how to hit that shot. She demonstrated it in her best stretches at the Foro Italico. What happens is a particular kind of hesitation that creeps in under pressure, a half second of self-doubt that causes her to slow the swing down right before contact, which is precisely the worst moment to decelerate a forehand. The physics punish you immediately. The ball drops, the angle flattens, the error count climbs, and then Coco, as Haber noted with visible concern, is physically unkind to herself on the changeover. She is not processing the error and moving on. She is internalizing it, and that cycle is eating into her mental bandwidth point after point. Jim Courier made a point I respect, which is that there are off-court variables we don't fully know about. Gauff has alluded to personal unsettlements this season, and I will give her that space. But I will also say this, the tour does not give you space. Roland Garros does not give you space. Iga Swiatek does not give you space, and Aryna Sabalenka does not give you space. When you arrive in Paris as the defending champion, the target on your back is enormous, And the moment your forehand wavers at 5-5 in the third, you need the mechanics to be automatic, not deliberate. Now, here's the bit that actually gives me some hope. And I want to be clear, I am not writing Coco Gauff off, not remotely. Because buried inside those brutal numbers from Rome is something that is genuinely encouraging. Her baseline retrieval is still elite. Her anticipation on the return of serve remains among the best on the women's tour. Her kick serve, when she trusts it, generates a high bounce that disrupts rhythm beautifully. And her competitive DNA, the ability to manufacture fight even when the tools are failing, is rare. Vandeweghe nailed it. She has to lick her wounds, assess, and improve. And the window between Rome and Roland Garros is tight but not impossible. What golf needs between now and the first round in Paris is not a complete technical overhaul. You do not tear a forehand down to its studs 2 weeks before a Grand Slam. What she needs is one specific adjustment that Austin has already pointed to. Step in on the forehand, trust the contact, and accelerate through the ball. Stop waiting for it to feel perfect. The conditions in Rome were heavy, yes, the balls were sitting up, the clay was slow, the air was thick, and Austin correctly noted that those conditions theoretically favor Gauff's heavy topspin game. But even in conditions designed to help her, the hesitation crept in. Correcting that hesitation, not the mechanics, the hesitation, is the psychological work that separates the players who win Roland Garros from the players who reach the final and fall short. Here is my 3-month read. If Gauff gets to the Paris draw and faces a heavy hitter early, someone who does not allow her to construct points patiently, we will see the forehand under stress immediately, and I am genuinely concerned about a quarterfinal exit or earlier if the passive swing returns. However, if she comes out in round one firing freely on that forehand, stepping in, leaning into the contact the way Austin is begging her to, then the defending champion mentality kicks in, and she becomes extraordinarily dangerous on a surface she has dominated before. The serve needs to be reliable at 60% plus on first balls, or every second serve exchange against the top seeds becomes a war of attrition she cannot sustain. My honest prediction, Gauff reaches the Roland Garros semi-finals. She does not win the title this year, not because she lacks the talent, she absolutely has it, but because the forehand, as currently calibrated under pressure, is not a weapon. It is a liability. And on the red dust of Paris against Swiatek or Sabalenka, a liability on your dominant wing is a sentence, not a setback. She has 12 days to prove me wrong. I genuinely hope she does. Step in on the forehand, trust the contact, and accelerate through the ball. Stop waiting for it to feel perfect. The conditions in Rome were heavy, yes, the balls were sitting up, the clay was slow, the air was thick, and Austin correctly noted that those conditions theoretically favor Gauff's heavy topspin game. But even in conditions designed to help her, the hesitation crept in. Correcting that hesitation, not the mechanics, the hesitation, is the psychological work that separates the